Hey everyone, and welcome to our deep dive. We're going to be tackling project quality management today.
Sounds good.
Specifically, we're looking at Chapter 8 from what seems to be a pretty comprehensive guidebook on the topic.
Yeah, looks like it.
So ready to dive in.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
So I think when we talk about project quality management, it's easy to kind of maybe think of it as a little bit abstract or just
Right.
like a box to check.
Yeah.
But really, it's so much more than that. I mean, it's about ensuring that the project is successful, right?
It really is the foundation for a successful project because without quality, you're not really delivering value.
Exactly. And I think it's kind of like, you wouldn't build a house without blueprints, right?
Absolutely.
You need that plan, you need that structure to make sure that everything comes together properly and, you know,
You end up with a house.
right, you end up with a house that doesn't fall down.
Exactly. That's a great analogy.
Yeah, and that's exactly what project quality management is. It's like those blueprints for building a successful project.
It's that framework for ensuring that your project is going to meet its objectives and deliver a product or service that is, high quality that meets those objectives.
Right, and it's not just about the end result either. It's about managing quality throughout the entire project life cycle.
Absolutely. From the initial planning stages all the way through to execution and delivery.
So no more like winging it or crossing your fingers and hoping for the best.
Definitely not. This chapter really emphasizes the importance of a systematic approach to quality management.
Okay, so what does that systematic approach actually look like?
Well, it starts with the three core processes of project quality management: plan quality management, manage quality, and control quality.
Okay, so three core process: plan quality management, manage quality, and control quality.
Yep.
It kind of makes sense. You plan for quality up front, you manage it during the project, and then you control it to make sure that everything stays on track.
Exactly. It's a logical flow.
So let's break down these processes a little bit further.
Hmm.
Let's start with plan quality management. What exactly does that involve?
So plan quality management is really about laying the foundation for quality on your project. It's about defining what quality means for your specific project, identifying relevant standards, and establishing the processes you'll use to achieve those standards.
Okay, so it's kind of like setting the ground rules, defining what good looks like before you even get started.
Exactly. And a key part of this planning phase is understanding the distinction between quality and grade, which the chapter highlights quite clearly.
Okay, quality versus grade. I'm intrigued. Break it down for me.
So think of it this way. Grade refers to the features and specifications of a product or service. Like a luxury car, for instance, is considered a higher grade than an economy car.
Okay, so like a higher grade car might have more bells and whistles, more features.
Exactly. But quality is all about how well that product or service conforms to its specifications, regardless of the grade.
So you could have a high grade product like that luxury car that's actually low quality if it's riddled with defects.
Precisely. You could have all the fancy features in the world, but if the car breaks down constantly, it's not really a high-quality product, is it?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I guess it's kind of like you could have like a really fancy, expensive cake.
Right.
But if it's like soggy in the middle,
Exactly.
then it's really not a good cake.
It's a bad cake no matter how much you paid for it.
Exactly. So it's about making sure that the product or service meets the standards that it's supposed to meet, regardless of how fancy it is.
Exactly. And that's why the chapter stresses the importance of prevention over inspection. It's about designing quality into the deliverables from the outset rather than trying to catch mistakes later on.
That makes sense. It's like it's better to prevent yourself from getting sick than to try to cure yourself once you're already sick, right?
Absolutely. It's much easier and more cost-effective to prevent defects from occurring in the first place than to try to fix them after the fact.
Right. And that brings us to another important concept, the cost of quality, or KEKOQ.
Yes, KOQ is an important consideration. It's essentially a way to quantify all the costs associated with achieving quality.
Okay, so when we talk about cost of quality, what are we actually talking about?
So there are three main categories of costs: prevention costs, appraisal costs, and failure costs.
Okay, so prevention costs, appraisal costs, and failure costs.
Right. Prevention costs are the costs associated with preventing defects from occurring in the first place, things like training process improvements, quality planning activities.
So basically investing in quality up front to avoid problems down the line.
Exactly. Then you have appraisal costs, which involve activities like testing, inspections, and audits to ensure that the product or service meets the defined quality standards.
Okay, so spending money to check and verify quality throughout the process.
Right. And then, unfortunately, there are failure costs. These are the costs incurred when things go wrong, defects are found, products need to be reworked or scrapped, or services need to be redone.
So failure costs are like the cost of not doing things right the first time.
Exactly, and they can be really expensive, both in terms of money and damage to your reputation.
Yeah, but nobody wants to deal with those failure costs.
Definitely not. That's why the chapter really emphasizes that investing in prevention and appraisal activities up front can ultimately save you a lot of money and headaches down the road.
It's like an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Precisely.
So let's dive a little deeper into the plan quality management process itself.
Okay.
Where do we even begin with planning for quality?
Well, the chapter provides a really helpful diagram, figure 8-4, that outlines the inputs, tools, and techniques and outputs of this process.
Okay, so we've got inputs, tools, and techniques and outputs.
Right. The inputs are all the information you need to build your quality plan. Things like the project charter, stakeholder requirements, industry standards, and any organizational process assets that might be relevant.
So it's like gathering all the ingredients you need before you start baking that quality cake.
I like that analogy.
Yeah. And then once you have all those ingredients, you move on to the tools and techniques for actually creating the plan.
Exactly. And there are a number of tools and techniques mentioned in the chapter. One of the key ones is benchmarking.
Okay, benchmarking. I've heard that term thrown around, but what does it actually mean in the context of project management?
So benchmarking is essentially about learning from the best. You're looking at industry leaders, competitors, or even internal projects that have achieved similar goals, and you're trying to understand what they did well, what their best practices are, and how you can adapt those practices to your own project.
So you're not reinventing the wheel, you're looking at what's already working and seeing how you can apply those lessons to your own project.
Exactly, and it's a great way to get a head start and avoid making common mistakes.
Makes sense. So we've got benchmarking as one of the tools, and what else?
Another crucial tool is cost-benefit analysis, which helps you justify those quality efforts financially.
Okay, so cost-benefit analysis, that sounds important.
It is. You're weighing the cost of implementing quality measures against the potential benefits, both in terms of preventing failures and enhancing customer satisfaction.
So it's like making sure that you're getting a good return on your investment in quality.
Precisely.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that the benefits outweigh the costs.
Precisely. And then what about the outputs of this planning process?
The key output of the plan quality management process is the quality management plan.
Okay, so the quality management plan is like the roadmap for achieving quality on your project.
Exactly. It outlines how you'll measure quality, what specific metrics you'll track, who's responsible for what, and what tools and techniques you'll be using throughout the project.
So it's a pretty comprehensive document.
It is, and it's a living document that should be reviewed and updated regularly as the project progresses and new information becomes available.
So it's not just something you create at the beginning and then forget about.
Definitely not. It needs to be a dynamic document that evolves along with the project.
So we've got the quality management plan as the main output of the plan quality management process.
Right.
And that plan then guides the next core process, which is manage quality.
Exactly. Managed quality is all about putting that plan into action and ensuring that quality is managed throughout the entire project lifecycle.
Okay, so we've planned for quality, now we need to actually manage it.
Right. And this involves a variety of activities, including implementing the quality processes you defined in your plan, conducting quality audits to assess how well those processes are working, and using a range of tools and techniques to identify and address potential quality issues.
So it's about making sure that those quality standards are actually being met as the project progresses.
Precisely.
And we'll be diving deeper into the managed quality process and those tools and techniques in the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. But for now, I think we've covered a lot of ground just in this initial exploration of plan quality management.
We've laid a good foundation for understanding those core principles.
Absolutely. And I think it's clear that planning for quality is not just a one-time activity. It's an ongoing process that requires careful consideration and attention throughout the entire project.
Couldn't agree more. It's about embedding quality into the very DNA of the project.
Well said. I think that's a great note to wrap up this part of our deep dive on.
Mm-hmm.
So stay tuned for the next part where we'll be exploring the managed quality process in more detail.
Looking forward to it.
See you then. All right, so we're back and ready to dig into that managed quality process.
Yeah, let's get into it.
So we spent a good amount of time in the last part talking about planning for quality, right? We've got our quality management plan all laid out.
We do. We've got a roadmap.
Exactly. But now it's time to put that plan into action.
Right. It's time to walk the walk.
Exactly. So managed quality is all about well, managing quality,
It
right?
is. It's about making sure that all those great ideas we put into our plan are actually being implemented and that we're achieving the desired level of quality throughout the project.
So it's not enough to just have a plan. You actually have to, like, make it happen.
Exactly. The plan is just the starting point. Managed quality is about execution.
So what does that execution actually look like?
Well, it involves a whole range of activities from implementing those quality processes we defined in the plan to conducting quality audits to assess how well those processes are working, and of course, using a whole toolbox of techniques to identify and address potential quality issues.
Okay, so there's a lot going on in this managed quality phase.
There is. It's a very active
And I
phase.
imagine that the specific activities and tools you use will vary depending on the project, right?
Absolutely. Every project is different, so the managed quality process needs to be tailored to the specific needs of each project.
Okay, so let's talk about some of those specific tools and techniques that might be used in the managed quality process.
Sure.
One that comes to mind is root cause analysis.
Yeah, root cause analysis is a really important one. It's a really powerful technique for getting to the bottom of quality problems.
So it's not just about fixing the symptom, it's about finding the underlying cause of the problem.
Exactly. You want to understand why the problem is happening so you can prevent it from happening again.
Right, it's like if you have a leaky faucet, you don't just want to keep mopping up the water.
Right. You want to fix the leak.
Exactly. So how do you actually go about conducting a root cause analysis?
Well, there are a number of different techniques you can use, but one of the simplest and most effective is the 5 whys.
5 whys.
Yeah, it's as simple as it sounds. You just keep asking why until you get to the root of the problem.
Okay, so let's say we're having a problem with, I don't know, late deliverables.
Okay.
So we'd ask, why are the deliverables late?
Right. And maybe the answer is because the team is overloaded.
Okay, so then we ask, why is the team overloaded?
Exactly. And maybe the answer is because we underestimated the effort required for this task.
Okay, why did we underestimate the effort?
And maybe the answer is because we didn't have enough information about the task when we were planning the project.
And so on and so forth until you get to the root cause.
Right, exactly. And sometimes the root cause is something that you can easily fix, like maybe you need to improve your estimation process.
Right.
But sometimes the root cause is something that's more systemic, like maybe there's a communication problem within the team or a lack of clear roles and responsibilities.
Okay, so the 5 whys can help you uncover those deeper issues that might be contributing to the problem.
It can, and it's a really good technique to use with a group of people because you get everyone's perspective on the problem.
That makes sense. So we've got the 5 whys as one technique for root cause analysis. What else is in that toolbox?
Another really useful technique is the fishbone diagram.
Fishbone diagram. What is that?
It's also sometimes called an Ishikawa diagram or a cause and effect diagram, and it's basically a visual way to brainstorm and categorize potential causes of a problem.
Okay, so it's like a mind map for quality problem.
Exactly. You start by writing the problem you're trying to solve at the head of the fish, and then you draw bones branching out from the fish, each representing a different category of potential causes.
Okay, so what kind of categories are we talking about?
Well, common categories include things like people, methods, materials, environment, equipment.
Okay, so you're basically looking at all the different factors that could be contributing to the problem.
Right. And for each category, you then brainstorm specific causes that might be falling under that category.
So for people, it could be things like lack of training or experience, or maybe just not enough people to do the work.
Exactly. And for methods, it could be things like using the wrong process or not following the process correctly.
And so on for each category.
Right. And by visually mapping out all these potential causes, you can start to see patterns and identify areas where you might need to focus your attention.
So the fishbone diagram can help you really get a holistic view of the problem.
It can, and it's a great tool to use in a brainstorming session with the team.
Okay, so we've got the 5 whys and the fishbone diagram for root cause analysis. Those are 2 really practical techniques.
Yeah, they are.
What other tools and techniques might be used during the managed quality process?
Well, another important one is quality audits.
Okay, quality audits. So what exactly is a quality audit?
A quality audit is basically a systematic review of your quality management system to make sure that it's actually working the way it's supposed to.
So it's like an inspection of your quality processes.
Exactly. And the goal of a quality audit is to identify any gaps or weaknesses in your system so you can make improvements.
So it's not about finding fault. It's about identifying opportunities for improvement.
Right. It's about making sure that your quality management system is effective and that it's helping you achieve your quality goals.
And who conducts these quality audits?
Well, they can be conducted by internal staff or by external auditors.
Okay, so you could have someone from within the project team conduct the audit.
Right. Or you could bring in an outside expert to provide an independent assessment.
And I imagine there are pros and cons to both approaches.
There are internal audits can be more cost effective and they can be done more frequently.
Okay.
But external audits can provide a more objective perspective.
All right, they're not as invested in the project, so they can maybe see things that the internal team might miss.
Exactly.
So quality audits are an important part of the managed quality process.
They are. They help you ensure that your quality management system is working as intended.
All right, so we've talked about some specific tools and techniques like root cause analysis and quality audits. What are some of the other things that might happen during this managed quality phase?
Well, another important aspect of managed quality is data analysis.
Okay, data analysis. So we're talking about collecting and analyzing data related to quality.
Exactly. You need to track key metrics and look for trends and patterns that can help you identify areas for improvement.
So it's about using data to make informed decisions about quality.
Right. You don't want to just rely on gut feeling. You want to have evidence to support your decisions.
And I imagine that the specific metrics you track will depend on the project and the type of product or service you're delivering.
Absolutely. Different projects will have different quality goals and therefore different metrics to track.
So you need to define those metrics early on in the planning phase.
Exactly. And then you need to make sure that you're collecting the data consistently and accurately.
So data analysis is another key activity in the managed quality process.
It is. And it can really help you to identify and address quality problems before they become major issues.
So this managed quality phase, it's all about putting the plan into action right.
It is. It's about making sure that the quality standards that you define in the planning phase are actually being met throughout the project.
And it involves a whole range of activities and tools and techniques.
It does. It's a very active and dynamic phase.
And it sounds like it requires a lot of collaboration and communication among the project team.
Absolutely. Quality is everyone's responsibility, so everyone needs to be involved in the managed quality process.
Well said. I think this has been a great overview of the managed quality process.
I agree.
And in the next part of our deep dive, we'll be looking at the final core process, control quality. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so we've made it to the final part of our deep dive into project quality management.
We have, and this is where it all comes together.
We've planned for quality, we've managed quality, and now it's time to talk about control quality.
Exactly. This is where we make sure that all our hard work pays off.
Control quality, what is that all about?
Well, it's essentially about verifying that the project deliverables actually meet the requirements we set out way back in the beginning.
So it's like the final inspection before you hand over the keys to the new house.
Exactly. You want to make sure that everything is built to code, that there are no hidden defects, and that the customer is going to be happy with the finished product.
Right. So control quality is about making sure that we're delivering a high-quality product or service that meets the needs of our stakeholders.
Precisely. It's about ensuring that we're meeting those quality standards that we defined in the planning phase.
And I imagine that this involves a lot of testing and inspection, right?
Yeah, it does. Testing is a key part of control quality. You need to make sure that the product or service functions as expected, that it meets performance requirements, and that it's free of defects.
So we're talking about things like functional testing, performance testing, user acceptance testing.
Exactly. All of those types of testing might be involved depending on the nature of the project.
And what about inspection? Is that different from testing?
Well, inspection is more about visually examining the product or service to look for defects or deviations from the specifications.
Okay, so like if you're building a bridge, you might have inspectors come out and visually check the welds and make sure that everything is structurally sound.
Exactly. Or if you're manufacturing a product, you might have inspectors check each item as it comes off the assembly line to make sure that it meets the quality standards.
So testing and inspection are both important parts of the control quality process.
They help you to identify and address quality problems before they reach the customer.
And I imagine that the specific testing and inspection methods you use will vary depending on the project, right?
Absolutely. The methods will need to be tailored to the specific product or service being delivered.
So for software development, you might use automated testing tools.
Right. And for manufacturing, you might use more manual inspection techniques.
Okay, so there's a lot of flexibility in how you approach control quality.
The key is to choose the methods that are most appropriate for your project, and that will give you the level of assurance you need.
And what about data analysis? Does that play a role in control quality?
Absolutely. Data analysis is essential for understanding how well your quality management system is working. You need to track key metrics related to defects, rework customer complaints, and other quality indicators.
Okay, so you're collecting data throughout the project and then using that data to assess the effectiveness of your quality management efforts.
Exactly. And if you see that certain types of defects are occurring frequently or that customer complaints are on the rise, then, you need to take action to address those issues.
So data analysis can help you identify areas for improvement.
It can, and it can also help you to measure the impact of your quality improvement efforts.
Right, you can track the number of defects over time and see if your efforts are actually making a difference.
Exactly.
So control quality is a really important part of the project quality management process.
It's the final step in ensuring that we're delivering a high-quality product or service.
And it involves a lot of testing, inspection, and data analysis.
It does. It's a very thorough process.
But it's all worth it in the end, right?
Absolutely. When you deliver a high-quality product or service, you're not just meeting customer expectations, you're exceeding them.
And that's what it's all about.
It's about building a reputation for quality and excellence.
I think this has been a really great deep dive into project quality management.
I agree. We've covered a lot of ground.
We've talked about the three core processes: plan quality management, manage quality, and control quality.
And we've discussed a wide range of tools and techniques that can be used to improve quality.
We have, and I think the key takeaway is that quality is everyone's responsibility.
Absolutely. Everyone on the project team needs to be committed to delivering high-quality work.
And quality is not just about following a set of rules. It's about having a mindset of continuous improvement.
It's about always striving to do things better.
Well said. I think that's a great note to end on. So to everyone listening, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into project quality management.
It's been a pleasure.
And remember, quality is not a destination, it's a journey. So keep learning, keep improving, and keep striving for excellence.
Until next time.